been 1 year since Kristin Graziano was sworn in as Charleston County Sheriff. 1 year later, I talked to her for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Sheriff Kristin Graziano, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin. It's great to be back.
I appreciate it greatly. Yesterday was 1 year since you were sworn in as Charleston County Sheriff. Take me back down memory lane. From that time to right now, what is it like to be you?
My journey to this started over a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. And when I was thinking about yesterday and everything that had happened during the course of that year, and even prior to it, I couldn't help but wonder. I mean, just think about the people that were behind me and that kind of helped me move to this point. And I had a meeting yesterday with staff, and all I could think about in that first year is how that we started our year in crisis mode and didn't end it in crisis mode, but really had crisis throughout, and how this amazing group of people that I work with have helped guide this ship, so to speak, to get us where we are today, because we've done so much. And I couldn't be more thankful and appreciative for that, and for the community support that I've gotten.
Where are you right now? What mode are you on or in right now as far as your agency?
What mode am I in? I'm in work mode, Quintin. I mean, we have had an incredibly busy year. It almost feels like we're trying to come up for breath at times, especially for the first year. And then into December, as the holidays came upon us and COVID started coming in, we knew we had to take precautions to protect our people, protect our community. So we started out, the first year in crisis mode, and then we sort of ended not in crisis mode, but crisis mitigation almost. Let's see what we can do to not have this crisis again. And so that's where we are right now. We're just working really, really hard. Thankfully, a lot of the staff had a break over the holidays, and they needed it. I didn't take much of one, but I took a little bit of a breather to get my feet back underneath me, catch my breath, and then continue to do the work.
Yes, ma'am. And what crisis techniques are you using right now? As you mentioned, you're not in crisis mode right now, but you're using certain techniques. What are you using right now?
So we are communicating more about things that are happening, especially not only in the community but with COVID. That's the main thing. In the detention center early on, during all that crisis with the first couple months in office, we really started an aggressive vaccination policy or a program with our residents at the detention center to get them, as many as possible, vaccinated. And we learned that very likely helped save not just lives, but helped reduce and minimize the spread within the facility. Because remember, those folks can't social distance. And so we took that very seriously, had a great plan in place, and staff did an amazing job with that. So, and it's the same thing now. I mean, we still are focused on the COVID and the spread, but right now the plan that we've had in place, we've done throughout the year, so it's working a lot better. And so we're just really doing our best to mitigate any spread within the four walls of the buildings, as well as in the community when our deputies have to interact with people. Recently, CDC enacted the protocol they had in place back in January to ask people if they've been exposed to people with COVID. So it's kind of giving our officers heads up when they go to calls, so they know what they're getting into.
Now, will your detention center undergo some sort of emergency 10-day quarantine?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Now, just in case, because obviously the increase is due to positive COVID tests around the country and here in this county, will you have to go to that particular measure?
So we don't quarantine people just as they come in. We test them as they come in the door. So anybody that gets brought into the facility gets tested right away. If they test positive, they are quarantined for that period of time that they're with us. That could be pre-bond hearing, or it could be maybe they don't make bond and they have to go to a cell where there's more people, or an area where there's more people. Those people, we designate certain areas for COVID positive. Now, say they're COVID positive. Most of them are not symptomatic, but it's preventative to keep them from going to other pods where other people have either been vaccinated or not, positive for COVID.
Now, do you have any inmates right now, or you say residents, any residents that are currently COVID positive, that is?
I've seen a couple in the past couple of days on shift reports. I'm not sure how many are still in the facility, but people refuse to get tested when they come in. We just hold them in isolation until their bond hearing, and then if they get released, it's not an issue. But the main thing is we don't integrate them with the general population in the jail. But yeah, I've seen a few, but we haven't had any outbreaks or anything like that. We do give vaccinations there. We will, if somebody comes in and wants a vaccination, we will honor that, and we will also pay them to get vaccinated if they choose to do so, as well as boosters.
Now, how many of those residents have been actually vaccinated, and how many have actually been tested?
So when we started this initiative, we had about 890 residents when we started it. Over the course of 2 weeks, they were able to vaccinate almost 600 people.
Wow. And how many, and have you all, do you all actually have the capability to give boosters?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yes. And how many of those have you given
out? And if they're due for a booster and they got their vaccination with us,
yes, ma'am.
They can sign up for the booster, and we will give them that as well.
Yeah,
we have plenty of access to vaccination.
Oh, absolutely. And let me turn to something else, because I'm losing my questions here, but I know that you wanted to rename the 26-bed facility the Juvenile Justice Center, that is. Let me ask you this, Sheriff. Why not a more descriptive name change that residents of Charleston County can actually approve?
I'm not sure I understand your question. It's called the Juvenile Detention Center right now, or it's actually not been named anything yet. That's what it's going to be named. Quinn, I'm a huge proponent of progress and change, and what we call people, what we say to people, is very, very important, regardless if those people, in this instance 12 to 17-year-olds, are accused of a crime that they have not been convicted of. So I think what we say to people, and we have these expectations when they come into our facility, that they will attend school, that they will follow the rules, that they will do whatever we ask of them, and not engage in any behavior that'll get them in trouble. If we don't have those expectations of them, then we say to them, you're an inmate at the Juvenile Detention Center because you're a bad person, I think that has a huge effect on how they're going to act. You call somebody an inmate, they're probably going to act like an inmate. You call somebody a resident, they're likely to act like a resident. We've seen an incredible response just with the people in the facility about how we refer to them. And out of respect for these children that are in our facility, I think it's important that we watch what we say. And if we have those expectations, that we call them, we respect the fact that they're human beings, and we treat them as human beings. And that was the only. I wanted to get rid of the stigma. That was it.
Okay.
There's no other motive other than to get rid of that stigma, to enable these kids to begin to learn again.
And this might be a redundant question, but what will the proposed name change going to do what's going to actually accomplish this?
It didn't pass, Quintin. The name change didn't pass.
Right.
So I'm still going to refer to these residents as juvenile residents of the facility. They're still going to be required to go to school. They're going to be expected to follow the rules. None of that's changing. We did change the uniform, so they are in khaki pants, polo shirts now when they attend school at all times. So that alone, just the way we treat them with some dignity and some humanity, has had a profound impact.
And I know you said that we want our juvenile residents to succeed and have fruitful lives once they leave these doors. This is a reflection of the change of approach and culture at our detention facilities, and a natural step in the process. What was the approach and culture at the Juvenile Detention Center, that is, prior to your arrival?
Do you watch the news? I mean, Quintin, the facility that the kids were in prior to, for many years, was a facility that was condemned. They should have never been in that atmosphere. Just in the past 2 years, they've been in in the other facility and been isolated from sight and sound from adults. And that was a temporary measure. But a part of, I think about people that live on the street that are homeless, and I think about, I can go to some homeless encampments in this area, and I will see people that take pride despite their circumstances in their, by the way they keep their areas clean, and they take care of themselves to the best of their ability. But then you see others that just have given up, and they've just given up, and you see everything in disarray. And I think about the kids, especially where they came from, that old facility, that wasn't just the kids, the staff. It had to be incredibly hard to walk in those doors and to work in that environment. Now we're creating an environment that's conducive for learning. We're creating an environment that will enable them to thrive, which they have been doing. And we're creating an environment that what juvenile processes were set up for is rehabilitation. And that's what we want.
Yes, ma'am. And what do you hope that environment will be like in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to be an environment that the entire country will be looking at. This model that we have in place. We've already graduated 4 kids with GEDs, 1 slated to graduate in February with his high school diploma early, and 4 of my juvenile students finished their first semester of college, and they start this week in their second semester at Trident Tech. So I think what you're going to see is kids have structure, they have goals, they made bad decisions, and we are giving them access to the things that they may not have had access to or may not have taken advantage of, and they're going to be successful. I have no doubt.
No doubt. You talk about decisions. Let me go back to obviously your first couple of hours in office as sheriff last year. Obviously, Jamel Sutherland died at the hands, apparently, at some of the deputies there, allegedly. What did you do wrong from a PR standpoint?
So from a PR standpoint, Quintin, I think the timeline is really important here, because January 4th is when this happened, and we came out right away and publicly said what happened. Unfortunately, nobody got really interested in this until a lawsuit was threatened, and so I think we could do better. I definitely think transparency is a big thing for me. I want to be transparent. I want to be as open and honest to the community, and I will continue to be. But I'm not going to throw people under the bus not having all the facts, and I'm not going to jump out and make statements that I later have to retract. I need to have the facts. So, working on that communication, we've hired a communications director. We have a new public information officer. We all, are on the same page when it comes to keeping the community abreast of what's happening. I think the most important thing that happened out of that, and I've said this 1,000 times, if not more, that I will not let Mr. Sutherland's death be in vain. We are going to do whatever it takes to not have that happen, not have anyone go through that, to include families, our community, ever again on my watch. So we have taken steps to prevent that and to be better at what we do, to include CIT training for all the people at the detention center. They didn't have that before. So those are just a few of the things. But I think we can always be better, and we're always looking to be better.
Now, what is your communication with the Sutherland's family right now?
I don't speak to the Sutherland family. I've reached out. I've extended that olive branch, and they know that they can call me anytime, but they have not done that.
And I know a couple of months right after his untimely and unfortunate death, you basically said, hey, we're going to change some policies within mental health at the detention center. You said this, quote, our eternal policy was changed to allow detention center's residents, that is, the right to refuse their bond hearing. They no longer have to do so in front of a judge. Since this policy has changed, how many inmates have actually refused their bond hearings?
I think they've had a couple that have refused them, but they don't tell me who's refusing bond hearing every day. I mean, people have the right to do that, so it's a non-issue for us. But what I did do, Quintin, was I didn't just change it in a few months. I mean, some of these changes happened immediately. That was one of the ones that happened immediately. It didn't take a few months. We implemented a duty to intervene immediately after that happened. That was already in the process before I even got sworn in. That was part of the transition. These are things that we knew needed to happen, And we started that ball rolling back in November. So I was able, armed and ready, to implement it as soon as we came in.
Yes, ma'am. Now, okay, the detention center, as you know, is now using a software that allows residents the ability to attend their bond hearings remotely through electronic devices inside their cells. What's the name of the new software?
I have no idea, Quentin. It's not new software. We've always had the ability.
Okay.
In fact, when Mr. Sutherland was incarcerated, they still had it online software. It's WebEx is what they use.
Okay. Okay.
But that hasn't changed. The problem is you have to get to that room. So you have to get to that room. It's not in your cell. Now we do utilize tablets now, and we can bring tablets to a cell, but it's rare that we even have to do that.
Okay. And how does the software ensure the safety of inmates and staff, including tracking inmate movements, automatic alerts when security-related issues exist, and obviously managing threat groups and keep it separate?
So are you talking about what have we done to manage the automatic alert email system? Is
No,
that what you're talking
the
about?
software related to the bond hearing.
Yeah. So we use a software, and that's different. I mean, the WebEx software is different from our tracking software. So our database is EIS. We use the EIS software, and in order to implement changes in the EIS software, which we don't own, we own the rights to use the software, but we don't own it. That software, when we want changes, or if we want changes to be systemic in the system, we have to go through this company in California, get permission to do it, tell them what we want to do, and they actually do it for us. So that's what we did when it comes to the automatic alerts. When they're booked into the facility, there's a series of questions that we ask, and we worked with mental health and other healthcare providers to ask these questions so that we could flag these folks that may or may not have mental health and or substance abuse issues, so that it's flagged and goes to the appropriate provider so that they get an immediate alert of who needs to be seen based on that flag.
And I know you got to run here at 1:30, so let me wrap it up. But let me talk to you about transparency. This came from the Post Inquiry just recently. A Charleston County Sheriff's deputy was recently allowed to resign his position rather than face termination after an internal investigation found he had allegedly sexually harassed 6 women at an out-of-state K-9 training center, according to the Post Inquiry. You wrote in a memo to him, apparently, quote, "I wish you and your family the best of luck with your new start." Let me ask you this, Sheriff. If an internal investigation found that he committed these alleged acts, then why didn't he was immediately arrested and charged?
So Quentin, there is no charge for sexual harassment. Besides, this incident happened out of state. I don't even have jurisdiction in that state, North Carolina. There's a lot of facts that you don't know, and I'm not going to discuss personnel issues regarding the facts of this particular case. But I do know if we had cooperation, which we did not, from folks that participated. This was based on an anonymous tip. Anonymous tip, not by any of the people that were alleged victims, but based on that tip, I acted. I sent officers up to North Carolina, brought him back, and took everything from him until we got to the bottom of it. This was not something somebody came and filed a complaint on. That's the beginning of the facts of the case. There are a lot of facts that are not known, because there was not cooperation, and I'm not going to comment on the status of that. The end goal, was to get him out of law enforcement and to report the action to the academy. That was the end goal, and that's what happened.
Why didn't you just fire him?
Quentin, I can't just fire somebody because somebody calls and leaves an anonymous tip.
Now, by doing this, isn't this really preserving his career, if anything?
No, it's not at all. It was reported to the academy. I don't make a determination on certifications. The academy does. That what we found in that investigation was sent to the academy. They make that determination. He's no longer in law enforcement. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that make that abundantly clear. But let me turn over to some other things. Obviously, when you talk about your success as a new sheriff in Charleston County, a lot of people know that you brought over Miss Joyce, as your deputy. What do you
think attributes your success to as far as hiring African Americans in record number and your staff at the top when the city of Charleston and North Charleston continues to say they can't find any good African Americans who are actually qualified?
Well, I thank you for bringing up Chief Deputy Smith.
Right.
I did not hire Chief Deputy Smith because she was an African American. I hired her because she shared the vision I had with community, and she's done a phenomenal job in that community. So I don't think I disagree that there is not quality candidates out there. We have them inside our building. There are great candidates inside this building and inside, especially our detention center. Amazing folks of color and Black and brown communities, and they are thriving. So I disagree that there aren't that great applicants, but I will tell you, we don't get a lot of them. We don't get a lot. We wish we had more. So as a result of one of the things that we thought we could do is we started an internship program in the summer, and we targeted HBCUs, and we hired 8 or 7. We had space for 8. Hired 7, and it happened to be all women that came in this past summer. I don't know. We didn't get any guys. And out of that 7, they were still in school. 1 graduated, and she's working for us now. So we are making those efforts to reach out, meet people where they are, as I've said 1,000 times, to make sure that they understand the job. And I'll tell you, the feedback we got from those 8, they are our best recruiters right now. They all want to come back for the next summer, and several of them want to go into a field in law enforcement. We're really targeting our STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, and really gauging our recruitment efforts on that, because really that's what a lot of law enforcement is. So, and I look forward to having at least 6 of those girls back next year. Hopefully we'll get some guys, but I'm okay with women. They seem to enjoy it. They love the work, and it was not at all what they thought it was.
And both racial bias auditors for the city of Charleston and North Charleston said there are few qualified African Americans for positions, but you seem to find key positions for them. Tell me why.
So I don't know what you mean by seem to find key positions. We promote people based on their qualifications, and it just so happens, some of my command staff are African Americans, but it's because of their qualifications. So yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you're talking about with what the audit is saying. I will tell you this.
Yes, ma'am.
I think our efforts need to be increased in recruiting diversity, period. And that's what we're working on. That is what is one of our core values, and diversity and inclusion. So those are 2 of the core values that we share, and that is in everything we do, to include recruitment.
Now, how many full-time employees are actually employed by your agency?
Yeah, good question. So we have space for 320 sworn officers and about 450 detention. So because 50 positions were removed from me last year. So we have a total. You're going to ask me a question I don't know the answer to, but I'll get the numbers to you. I don't know what our total is right now. We have about, as of today, 11, 13, 9 openings in the law side. Wow. And then we're short-staffed at the detention side, but we're active recruiting weekly. I mean, it's an ongoing effort.
Now, how many of our full-time, non-sworn civilian employees, including the administrative staff and obviously jailers?
About a fourth. About a fourth of that. Yeah.
Wow. Now, how many now, what is your current retention rate for qualified and trained personnel?
Retention rate is, the people that are here have been here for a while. We're hiring new people just about every week, every month, depending on what positions are open.
Yes, ma'am.
So they're very busy, but I don't have an issue with retention. And we actually actively seek ways to keep people employed. We don't want to lose them. We don't want to invest in somebody and then have them walk out the door because they aren't making enough money or they're not happy. We do listen to our folks to see what it is that they need, that we can, we want to keep them. It serves everybody well.
Speaking of money, how are you working with the county administrator and county council to strengthen pay and benefits and to improve recruitment and retention, including the completion of a public safety compensation study?
I don't know what study you're referring to, but all county council does is approve our budget. So when we submit a budget to them based on our needs, based on our staffing, all they do is approve it. So we don't actively work together to recruit, because they recruit county. Each department in the county recruits for its own. County has its own HR. We have our own HR. So yeah, we follow the same rules, but that's
Yes,
about
ma'am.
it.
When do you expect to increase your staffing to an acceptable level?
Yeah, I don't know that we're not at an acceptable level right now. When I came in here, we were 20, almost 30 positions short on the law side.
Okay.
We hired for all those positions, and we create a pool of applicants, and we were able within a couple months to hire everybody within that pool. So we were full staff, and then retirements happened.
Right.
So as that normal attrition happens, we have to fill those spots, and then again we had all these promotions that happened. So when the promotions happen, that trajectory, that normal attrition in those particular lower level positions happens. So we're where we need to be as far as the law side. Detention, we always need detention officers. We're always seeking ways to actively recruit more detention folks. I think, as you see, we're changing lives at the detention center. And I think when people start to see that, they're going to realize that it's not about babysitting people that are locked up in a cell. Now it's about, what can I do to be a part of their success to make sure they don't come back. And I think once we get to that point, and I think we're getting to that point, we have lists of people that want to attend college courses, but we just don't have the staffing to put everybody there. So we could do better if we had better staffing. So I think that's something that's always ongoing, that we're always going to revisit, and we're going to keep those communication lines open to make sure that we're hitting the marks, especially when it comes to recruitment.
And one last question, I know you got to run, but let me ask you, what were the top 10 charges within Charleston County in 2021?
The top 10 charges?
Yes, ma'am.
As in criminal charges?
Right. Yes, that your deputies had to fear.
I don't have that information. I'm happy to have staff look it up and give it to you. That's not a big issue.
Okay. All righty, that's fine. If you say
if you had
so.
told me ahead of time, I could have done that. But I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
Our accreditation report should be on the website.
Okay.
They can look up the statistics there. What you'll see when it comes to statistics on that is we've improved.
Oh, good.
We've improved a lot with our equality in policing.
And I hope to talk to you more about all of this and recruiting and whatnot in the future. But Sheriff Kristin Graziano, thank you again for your time, and welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quinn. It's great to see you. Happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon.
Likewise.